Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon, and today we have our full meta report where we're going to talk about all the strongest champions in the meta. Now, a lot of times when I'm making these meta reports, I'm talking really about what people are playing, what I see people playing, what I see the most commonly. But I want to make this video a little more talking to you guys about what I actually think is like really the strongest, not just what people are playing, not just what everyone says is the strongest, but the champions, some underrated champions that you might not think about that actually can climb really well, that have like good win rates on those websites that we see as well, and just champions that I believe just from their kits, from how they work, from the matchups against the meta, are actually a lot stronger than people realize. Obviously some of the things we'll talk about as well will just be, the pretty standard meta that everyone plays. And getting right into the Baron lane, Garen is by far just the best top laner. Like after his rework, he was already really strong before his rework, and frankly, I should have rated him higher in my previous meta reports, but after this rework, I mean, he's absolutely insane. You can stack Conqueror with your third ability now, so he's just absolutely broken with Conqueror. He just does an insane amount of damage. He's still insanely tanky. Just pretty much just everything about him is insanely broken. So if you just want a champion that's insane at all points in the game, play Garen. And then if we're going to look at some of the champions that a lot of people do play that are very meta, Rumble is definitely top tier AP champion right now. Super insane burst damage, really good scaling, good laning. He just doesn't have any weaknesses for the most part. The only fact is that he's not a super beefy champion, so you can't engage for your team as much, but Rumble is absolutely OP. Nasus is still insanely strong. People kind of underrate Nasus again because of the fact that he got nerfed, but he's still really, really broken. It's hard to punish him in lane phase for the most part. He can still run at you, absolutely destroy you. His damage, his scaling is insane. He can still 2-tap squishies in the late game. So definitely don't underrate Nasus just because he got nerfed. Then we have Wukong as a really good laner into the squishy to mid-tier health champions. He struggles a bit more into the really tanky champs, but he is really strong overall. And then we have Gnar, who again, after the nerf, Gnar is still really good engaged in team fights, insane amounts of CC, lane phase still pretty strong, all of those types of things. So those are some of the strong champs that people play a lot. Then going into some of my sleeper top champs that I genuinely think are at the very top of the meta, and I just think people don't play. So the first one is going to be Olaf. Olaf has a really good matchup into a lot of the champions. He's actually pretty good into Garen. If you're looking for a champion to play into Garen and you don't want to play Garen himself, he's pretty good into most of the top champs in general. He's just a very solid champion. Even when he is behind, he can still run at the enemy, in team fights, at the carry or whatever. He's just very good into most melee champions right now. Does really well when people play him. There's one player in NA who does play him, who I've seen play him before, named Peep. Whenever I play against him, I definitely see Olaf work really well. And I wouldn't really see anyone else play it, but that type of thing is just like nobody plays this champion, but it's actually a really strong laner and still has good scaling, everything like that. The next sleeper top lane champion is Teemo. I genuinely think Teemo is extremely strong. Like, I don't know why people act like Teemo is a bad champion. He has insane damage. His laning phase is pretty strong. Most people don't know how to lane into ranged top laners anyway, so if you're looking to, win because of the fact that other people don't know how to play the game well, nobody knows how to lane into ranged top laners. He has good matchups into a lot of the meta champions, and his scaling is insane. He's really good around team fights. The only weakness is that he's not a tank, so sometimes you need a little bit of frontline, but if you're actually a good Teemo player, you don't even need frontline half the time because you're setting up properly around objectives. People can't really walk in to you, everything like this. So honestly, I think Teemo is pretty broken right now, and I think people don't realize it. Warwick is broken for the reason that he is an OP laner. He wins almost every lane matchup. The only champion he really loses to is Singed, and he doesn't actually lose to Singed. Singed just proxies and ignores him. Beats pretty much every other matchup. Kind of close to Volibear, close to a few others, but for the most part, he beats every matchup. He does beat Garen, though it can be close, obviously. So his laning, and the fact that once you get out of lane, you essentially just become a champion who you can guarantee that you're going to win lane if you're not really bad at the game. And then you can just go on to the enemy carry, you can go on to the enemy AD carry, support, whoever, and you're just going to easily be able to trade 1-for-1 minimum in fights. You grab Gargoyle later to be useful in fights, so you're just always able to be useful, even if you do not win lane for whatever reason. And then the last sleeper OP champion is going to be Kayle. So Kayle is the only one that I've listed that I don't think is objectively OP, in the sense that I don't actually think he's a strong champ. I think Kayle's a strong champ because people suck. And so I think if you're looking to abuse the fact that people are really bad, definitely play Kayle, because nobody knows how to punish people in the early game. Most of the time, a jungler's not going to properly set up in order to gank you and make your game really hard. The enemy top laner is not going to stack the wave properly, and Kayle actually has a stronger level 1 than most people realize, so Kayle can actually kind of fight off the level 1, and if you learn the matchups, you're going to get a lot of free random kills. There's multiple Kayle 1 tricks in NA. who climb a lot higher than they should. They're not good players, but they climb because they play Kayle, and they just scale for free, and they randomly, will one-shot people late in the game. And so I do recommend Kayle as well. Then again, going into some of the more basic champions, some of the best split pushers are Jax and Camille right now. They're good into tanks. They're good in general, very consistent. But split pushers aren't super strong. So if you're looking for a split pusher, Jax or Camille are the best options, but it's not like they're anything crazy. Yone is a really, really good carry top laner right now. Pretty consistent in most matchups. Doesn't split push super well, but he has really good carry potential, though he is a little bit squishy. Ornn and Poppy, by far the best tanks, especially Ornn, I would say, is pretty nutty, but Poppy as well. Both really good laners that are still going to scale really well and just really consistent, engage, everything like that. Then if we're looking at some of the bruisers who aren't as good as the main ones we mentioned, like Garen, for example, Gnar, not as strong as those, but still good. Volibear is a really solid one. Sett as well. Darius, Aatrox, and Renekton. So if you look at Darius, Aatrox, and Sett, they're going to be really, really good into tanks, especially. They're going to have good, true damage or just a lot of good damage into tanks. Volibear is going to be pretty consistent at setting up jungle and really snowballing early games. If you're stacking waves properly, you dive on level 5. If you're especially duo with jungle, can be really, really good. And then Renekton is just like one of the strongest level 5 champions in the game, and his lane phase is really strong on most levels apart from level 1. So he's able to oftentimes get really big early leads and then still be useful later on in the game. Kind of a worse Warwick in a way. They're different champions, they play differently, but they're both champs who have really good lane phases, who will fall off later in the game, so you have to use the fact that you got an early lead in order to, keep your lead and snowball the game, stuff like that. Then if we're looking at some AP options, apart from the main ones we listed, like Rumble and Warwick, some other ones are going to be Gragas, Mordekaiser, and Gwen. All pretty good AP options. Gwen going to be the best into the tanks. Gragas going to be really, really good at blowing up a squishy champion, and he can build tank if he wants. And then Mordekaiser's ultimate can always kind of be useful no matter what. Some good counter picks to keep in mind. Again, Malphite is going to be good versus full AD. Jace you could lock in versus squishy champions, but right now I would probably say he's not going to be that great. But he's still a champion I usually mention because as a champ I play a lot. Fiora is going to be a decent tank counter and split pusher. But yeah, overall, Garen is by far the best champion in the top lane. And you got champs like Rumble, Nasus, Wukong, and Gnar. Following up behind that, and again, the sleeper champions of Olaf, Teemo, Warwick, and Kayle. So that's going to be it for the Baron lane. Now let's go into the jungle. Okay, so starting off with the jungle, Amumu is still just going to be the best champion right now in the jungle. I mean, he has really good clear speed, build diversity. He's just pretty insane. His damage is really high, just really easy to play as well. So definitely Amumu just by far the best. Then in my opinion, next up, I definitely would put Nilah. I mean, Nilah's carry potential is just so insane. Like, you can get 2-3 items and that champion will start melting the entire enemy team. All you have to do is just somewhat understand farming. You don't even have to understand it that well, and you can just beat everyone. Like, again, same as Kayle top lane, people don't know how to play into these late game champs. They don't know how to punish them. They don't know how to end games, and so you can easily get these advantages. Like, it is really not that hard, and it's not that mechanically difficult of a champion either. If you ever do duo queue with an enchanter, it literally becomes the best champion in the game as well, so that's also something to keep in mind. Then for some of the best bruisers, so Wukong's gonna be probably the best, like, assassin-y bruiser. Really good burst damage, really good into squishy comps. Struggles a bit into tanks, though. Then some of these other bruisers are going to be more well-rounded. So a champion like Ambessa, pretty much good every game. Her resets are broken. Ambessa is definitely one of the best junglers. Completely broken champion. Hecarim as well. Not that many people play Hecarim. I think this champion is broken. You get a couple early. It's pretty easy to get early kills, get early ganks off. Your scaling is really good. You're pretty much good at every point in the game. Insanely hard champion to shut down as well. So definitely one of the best champs in my opinion. Then we have Olaf, who again, good into most champions. Really good. We'll see a lot of NA players playing him in the jungle, climbing on him really effectively. I mean, he's just a really hard champion to shut down. Again, it's like you get fed to a certain extent and you pretty much can't do anything to stop him, kind of like a fed Hecarim. It's very similar. So these types of champions, these stat check champions, are going to be some of the best bruisers. Zed's going to be the best AD assassin right now. His burst damage actually insane. He has really low ult cooldown, everything like that. Just that all makes him definitely the best AD assassin. Best AP jungle apart from Amumu is going to be Echo. Again, really good clear speed, or pretty good clear speed anyways. Really good burst damage, good scaling, still strong enough in the early game, everything like that. Then for some of the bruisers who aren't as good as the main ones we mentioned, but still solid, Vi and Volley are going to be some of your really tanky bruisers that have good engage, like more like on the tankier side. Then some of your carry bruisers, champions like Riven, Lee Sin, and Red Kayn, all going to be really good. Lee Sin's ganking is absolutely insane. Riven just has the potential to pop off in 1v9 to fight at any time. And Red Kayn might be the most underrated jungle of anything that I've mentioned so far today. That or Nilah. Then after that, we have some carries as well. So a champion like Viego is going to be a pretty good carry. Not anything special, but definitely a solid one if you're looking for some type of more just like carry 1v9 jungler. Nocturne, pretty solid champion right now. Nocturne's clear speed is really, really insane. Problem is, he doesn't have that same burst damage as some of the other AD assassins later on in the game, but his ultimate does make it so that his team can follow up a lot more. But for me, solo or duo queue, sometimes Nocturne's going to be hard for your team to actually take full advantage of. And again, I think the champion's decent, but I don't think it's anything special. And then Yone is kind of, to me, a similar thing, where Yone is a really strong champion, really good kit right now, but the main issue is the fact that Yone has a slow clear speed, which means that it's hard to get an early lead. Then for some other AP junglers, we have Warwick, Lilia, and Rumble. I would say Warwick is going to be a really, really easy one to play. Really good for that early game. Lilia is a lot more scaling, and then Rumble is kind of going to be good at most points in the game. Kayle, again, is going to be one of those farming junglers, kind of like Nilah, where a lot of people don't actually know how to play and do it properly, and I definitely recommend you guys locking that champion in if you just want some free scaling and kind of, easy ability to carry games. And then for some of the best tanks, if you are a tank player, Poppy, Rammus, Maokai, and Nunu, I would say are some of the best tank junglers right now. Often counter picks, you can do things like Rammus into AD, often like into Assassin, stuff like that as well. You can do Morg into a lot of CC, Master Yi if they have no CC, and then Rengar, Kha'Zix, or pretty much any, AD Assassin or whatever if they're really squishy. So again, to reiterate, Amumu is going to be by far the best. Then you got champions like Nilah, Wukong, Ambessa, Hecarim, Olaf, and Zed, who I would say are some of the next best after that. And yeah, now let's get into mid lane. Alright, so I have been playing a bunch of mid lane this season, and I think there's some very interesting things about the meta. So, starting off with some of the basic things, so Syndra is just the best mid laner in the game right now. Insane scaling, really good laning, high range, still good burst damage. She's just good at everything. Really, really consistent blind pick. Echo, Ori, and Corki then are going to be some of the more commonly mentioned champions that are just at the top of the meta. Orianna can steal objectives in an absolutely insane way. Her burst damage is like completely disgusting. Her lane phase is decent, but she does kind of struggle into the long range mages like Syndra, for example, and has some counters. So she's really good, but has some counters. Echo's wave clear still just makes him insane. It's really that wave clear that allows him to be so insane, and then again scaling really well. And Corki's burst damage and just everything is insane. His lane phase insane, and he's one of the few AD options that are at the top of the meta. And then going into some of the most slept on champs. So if you guys want easy to play champions that you can climb on super effectively, play any champion from this list except for Zoe, because Zoe is kind of hard. But the other ones, just play these champs. It's actually free elo. Heimerdinger is genuinely a broken champion. You get complete control over the lane. His burst damage is insane. He has really good range on his engage, and people also don't know how to play into him. A lot of the top champions struggle because taking out his turrets in the mid game is insane. Like, this champ's genuinely broken, and nobody plays it because it's like the new Nasus to me. Where I was always saying that Nasus is a really underrated champion. No one would play Nasus until he got a buff, and then all of a sudden he was the best champion in the game. Like, he has been strong for a while. So is Heimerdinger. Play this champion if you want free elo. Zyra is the same way. More people know about Zyra, but this champ, really good in lane still. Good burst damage, super easy to play. Even when you're behind, again, really, really OP champion. There's this player called Paper Lucky. He plays only solo queue, and he's climbed. He's very similar rank to me right now. Very similar win rates, stuff like that. Just playing Zyra, like every game, rank 1 Zyra in NA. He's really, really good at it. And that champ's completely broken as well. Zoe is a champ that is a little harder to perform on, but is completely broken if you are good at Zoe. Her burst damage is disgusting. That champ is just completely broken, completely overtuned. The lane phase, everything about her, completely unbalanced, and it has been for a very, very long time. And then probably the easiest mid laner in the entire game is Singed. All you have to do if you want to play Singed is you go and you wave clear level 1, you go and you roam, you come back to lane when the wave comes, and you just back and forth, back and forth. There's always some high elo Singed player climbing way higher than they should based on their skill level, because they just get to permanently push and roam. They have to use 0 brain cells. They just run around in team fights. It's such a weird playstyle. It's so different than other playstyles, but it's so easy to execute on, and it is completely broken. So any of those champions, if you want free elo, play Heimer, Zoe, Zyra, or Singed. People won't ban your champion. Nobody will pick it, and you will have a very, very easy time. Then Yasuo is going to counter a lot of the top champs that people actually play. So stuff like Syndra, Echo, Ori all struggle into Yasuo. He's just really good in terms of lane phase. He's really aggressive in those types of lanes. Scales really well, can itemize against them well because he can get stuff like Wit's End if he wants. All that type of stuff, right? So he's going to be really strong overall. Yone is another great AD option, very similar to Yasuo. A little worse in the lane phase, so I have him a little lower than Yasuo, but overall very, very similar. Does very similar things. Vex and Ryze are going to be really good counters to these aggressive champions like Yone or Yasuo. Overall, they have really good burst damage. Ryze is going to be better into tanks, whereas Vex is going to be better at stopping those dashing champions, again, like the Yasuo, the Yone, that type of thing. Then Lissandra and Annie are kind of going to be worse versions of Vex, where they're good CC, good setup, can set up their team well, can stop the aggressive champs, just not quite as strong as Vex. And then Ahri is going to be a really good roaming setup mage. I would say very similar strength to Ryze. They both have different strengths and weaknesses. Ahri more burst damage and mobility. Ryze better into tanks. So I guess Ahri better burst damage into squishies, right? But Ryze is going to be more sustained damage into tanks, that type of thing. But they're both going to be really strong. Swain is going to be another champ that's pretty easy to perform on, pretty easy to climb on. So if you're looking for something that's just easy, you don't want anything too difficult to play, definitely recommend looking for Swain. And then if you don't like the main mages I mentioned, the Syndra, Ori type of thing, Ziggs, Victor, and Asol are going to be other good mages that you can lock in that definitely can climb well. Jace, Akshan, and Lucian, they're going to be okay AD mid laners. I don't really recommend them right now. Again, I recommend a Yone or a Yasuo, something like that. But nonetheless, you can play these champions if that's what you want. Akali and Zed are going to be decent assassins. Nothing special. In my opinion, assassins are not good right now. But if you are looking for an assassin, that's who I'd recommend. And then Galio can counter some of those AP assassins if people do lock them in. You can have Malphite to counter the AD assassins if you want. But overall, that's kind of going to do it for the mid lane. So let's go into ADC. All right, and the ADC meta really hasn't changed for a while. It's largely based on support meta most of the time, and support meta also hasn't gone that different. It's a little different with some of the enchanter changes, which we'll talk about, but not that different. So going into ADC, Corki and Varus are by far the best. Corki's the main difference, where Corki is a lot stronger, than he was a couple months ago. Completely insane at melting tanks, really good. The main weakness of Corki is his lack of range, which is why a champion like Varus might do well into him. But overall, if the enemy don't have an insanely long range poke comp, you're going to do extremely well if you're locking in the Corki. Varus, on the other hand, much better into squishy champions. A bit stronger lane, better with engaged champs a little bit, but overall, again, Corki, Varus, by far the best champs. Kai'Sa and Sivir are going to be next. They're much better with enchanters than anything else. They just have insane carry potential, insane scaling, but their lane phases are weaker than the other two champs that we mentioned as the top. And that's one of the main reasons that they're not going to be quite as strong overall. Then after that, we have Zeri and Tristana. They're going to be other really good scaling champions that if you want to play something that's just good in or good at later parts of the game, might not be the strongest early game champion, but you can scale really well. You're going to want to play Zeri and Tristana. If you're looking for some of that late game or that early game long range kind of lane bullying, something like Caitlyn or Ezreal is going to do really well. Lucian's going to be a really good short range lane bully. You can counterpick champions like Xayah if they're really aggressive, Misfortune with good team setup. And then the rest of the hyper carries, they're just going to be good if you have, Lulu, Melio, those enchanters, that type of thing. And then lane bullies like Draven, Kalista, pretty shit right now, but they can snowball the game if you have really aggressive ADC or support champs that help you snowball. And so that's why I know there's a very short, the ADC meta is so straightforward. It's literally just like Corki, Varus are insanely OP. If you don't want that, you lock in one of those hyper carries like Kai'Sa or Sivir. If you want to play a lane bully, you play something like Caitlyn, Ezreal, and it's really not more complicated than that, so I don't need to waste your guys' time. That's really it for the ADC meta. All right, and then going on to our final rule, but before we do that, I just want to point out the fact that I had support gameplay going on the entire time, except for the time where I'm talking about support. So I'm just a really good YouTuber. I just wanted to mention that first. But going into the support meta, again, it's not changed that much from the last time. That's just the reality of ADC support meta. It doesn't change that much. We'll talk about the enchanter changes as well. But initially, best solo queue champions if you're looking for support, Poppy, Ornn, and Pyke are really, really good. Poppy, really good at roaming, just overall a lot of damage, good CC, pretty good at kind of everything, and that ultimate can always be super, super useful in fights. Ornn, obviously, his, passive giving people the ability to buy items out of base is going to be really useful. His engage is really easy. It's a lot less committal than something like Leona or Alistar that have to go all in and then get shut down by the Veils and the peel from Lulu, all these things. So for that reason, definitely a really good champion compared to the other tanks right now. And then Pyke is really good for solo queue just because of the fact that you can completely snowball a game with him, whereas most other supports, they rely a lot on their team. But if you're playing a champion like Pyke, you can pretty much just take a lot of the game into your own hands, which I know a lot of people like, and I definitely do think if you're a really good Pyke player, that's a very useful thing to do. And then moving on to the overall best duo queue champions are going to be champions like Melio and Lulu. They're still extremely OP, so again, people have talked about how the enchanters getting the nerf to all their items. It definitely was impactful, but Ionian boots again are still so OP on them. They still do all the same things they did, just slightly worse. Like, they still heal people for a bunch. They still have insane peel. They still get access to Veil. Lulu has, you know, an insane amount of attack speed given to her teammate. Melio gives an insane amount of, range to her teammate. You know, like, they still do all these things. They still work really well with the best ADCs in the game. So it's still very OP if you are duo queue. Again, if you're solo queue, go to some of those tanks that I mentioned above. But overall, yeah, like, those enchanters are completely broken still. And the other enchanters are still very similar, just slightly worse because of the fact that, you know, they just don't have as good of kits as Lulu or Melio. And then if you're looking for like a solo queue enchanter or one with more agency, play Nami or Seraphine. Like, Nami and Seraphine, they have better engage potential, so they can actually kind of set up their team. They have good lane phases, and they're just a bit more self-sufficient as a whole. So if you're looking for that, definitely go for one of those. And then Sona's kind of a slept-on enchanter in my opinion. Like, she's actually really, really good. Again, a lot of people don't know how to punish bad early game champions, and usually these champs just get to scale for free. And once you get late game with Sona, it's pretty dang hard to beat a Sona, right? So then if you're looking for some other solo queue kind of tank supports, go for a champion like Thresh, Rakan, or Blitz over the other tanks, you know, the Alistars or Leonas. Because champs like Alistar, Leona, they're a bit too like all in. They kind of, you know, they struggle a lot in a lot of situations because, again, the enemy peel, you're stuck all in, you can't get out, that type of thing. Whereas these other champs, they can hook in, right, with Thresh or Blitz. Or if you look at Rakan, he has a very easy time getting out. So those types of champs are going to be pretty good overall, but nothing special. And then again, the hard engage champs just really still suck right now, even as they did before. Even though enchanters got nerfed, it didn't really change that much, frankly. And then people often ask about the mage hard carry supports, so champions like Zyra, right, that type of champ, Brand, those different types of champs. They're not necessarily the strongest if we look at like the objectives in the objective sense, right? But they are good for solo queue because you have more agency. So I recommend playing these types of champs in low elo, not really in the higher elos. Because in like low elo, let's say below master, you kind of do need to do some amount of damage and take a lot of the game into your own hands sometimes as just as a solo queue support main, because your team is just not going to do proper damage themselves, that type of thing. But once you get to the higher elos, playing those supportive champions, or at least champions like Nami or Seraphine who are supportive but still have some type of carry potential, those champs just do better overall, and usually you're going to have at least one or two teammates who know how to take advantage of you doing that. And then lastly, people always ask about Swain and Jarvan. The Jarvan buffs, they're cool. I don't think they actually do much. I think functionally it's the same champion. Good counter pick if the enemy have no dashes, otherwise not that useful. And Swain, solid right now. Kind of in a similar category to like Zyra or Brand, in the sense that it's not objectively the strongest champion ever, but it has that good carry potential if you feel like you just can't rely on your team, which you kind of can't in lower elos, but the higher elo you go, you know, the more you have at least a little bit of reliance on the team, even if you're still going to play relatively selfishly. But obviously as a support, you know, you're going to play a little more supportive than the average role. So that's the main thing. Then we have some counter picks. You know, you can pick Galio if you want into heavy AP. You can pick Morg if they have a lot of CC. And Braum can be good for peeling your teammates, you know, pretty basic stuff like that. But yeah, that's going to do it for the meta report. That's overall my thoughts on every rule, all that type of stuff. Let me know what you guys thought about the video. If you like me kind of bringing up my own thoughts on the meta more so than just talking purely about what's the strongest or what people play the most. Again, some of those mid lane champs especially, I would really say were some of the things that a lot of people don't play that I think a lot more people should. So I hope that you guys are able to use these picks. I hope that this understanding of the meta helps you out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.